Because that's a lot of times people will do that. They'll kind of like match their pace because they don't want the dog to get ahead. Yeah. So they'll kind of do that. But then you're going to find yourself in like a near sprint if you keep doing that, you know.
Well, keep in mind the words are irrelevant, right? So like dogs don't just know what words mean. You have to teach them what words mean. So you could pick whatever words you want for those types of things. The key is understanding how to actually train the command, right? So how to teach the word to have meaning, or teach the dog that the word has meaning, right? So that's kind of where this comes in. And that's a normal thing people say, you know, is like, you know, is this the right, you know, I'm saying off, the dog's not getting off, obviously, is there a different word I should be using? But it comes down to just how we're enforcing it and how we're ultimately teaching the dog what that means so that that word has value behind it. So, yep, and that's where the training comes into play.
Today we're up at Edgewater with Aura. We're working on proofing some downs, some of her walking, some of her recalls, and kind of going over the benefits of doing so. So obviously with the nice weather, the major benefit is just getting out and working around more natural distractions, the squirrels, the dogs, the joggers, bikes, all that stuff. So today we're up here kind of doing that and kind of seeing what we can get. The real point of proofing is to kind of like fine-tune those smaller details. You know, you can get a dog who's really good at walking in low distraction settings, but then brought into a higher distraction setting, you know, out of the house, it's something that it can become a lot more difficult doing. So that's kind of what we're working on today. Typically with proofing, what comes with that, generally with working with the balance training, is you do go up on your levels a little bit more to allow that more control, higher stimulation, typically higher levels, to kind of help the dog focus back in and realize what those mistakes are. A lot of times if that stimulation is too high and you give that lower level correction that you'd be using kind of in your house, it's something that typically they'll either just blow it off or they just won't even feel it because they're so focused or so stimulated on whatever the distraction is. So being able to work through that allows us to kind of be in a bigger stimulated situation and know at the end of the day that we also have that control. So in this example of the down stay, it's something that we're obviously putting her in a situation where before we laid in this structure, this would have been a lot going on. The dogs, the kids running around. Aura is a very easily excitable dog, which is lovely for her, but can be difficult for the owners. So it's something that to help maintain that control and kind of that stimulation, that excitement level, we bring her around areas like this to kind of help work on the duration for the downstays. Getting her into a comfortable, stable position, allowing her to kind of look at all these things going on, hear all these noises, smell all these things, but still control the command. Good. Good girl.
Wait, wait.
Good girl. That looks good. Look at that. I was hoping with him boarding with us, he'd like remember me a little bit sooner, but that's all right. I don't know if I've ever asked, but does he have the same response when like you guys come home, or is it just because like me coming home?
I did it like a couple times. It happens with us too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. For as long too?
No.
Okay. Well, that's all right. We're just gonna basically do the same thing today that we did last time. Just like working on this, trying to get him a minute, and then go for a walk. Nice. All right. Now go ahead and try to put him on the bed again. I want to see if his attitude will change now that he's kind of like been able to see us. This is much better. I mean, I will say even just from the last time we were here till today, he is calming down a little bit. He's taking a little bit more breaks in between at least, you know? At least even just to check in on you, which is good. So it's small progress, but it's something, you know?
Yeah, I think today was better.
Yeah.
And he does that kind of stuff when there's no one here.
Okay, yeah. And will that kind of last the whole time that he's on there, or will he eventually kind of just...
Eventually ends.
Yeah.
Most times.
Yeah, that's good. That's good that you guys are like waiting it out, because that's the most important part, you know? Is being able to wait it out. Only asking him to stay within this bubble. Oh. Good boy.
Is she a plant?
Huh?
Is she a plant?
Oh, yeah. Good boy. And I'm just gonna walk a couple feet up the driveway, and then I'm gonna kind of do like a 180. And if he doesn't follow, no, tap, and then do that back, right? So just a few times. And this will help kind of just get him kind of in the zone. And I can be pretty general at first and then just be more specific. But you can see even one correction, he's already kind of like, it's a little delay, but he's starting to, no, come. Starting to realize, oh, when he turns around, I got to follow, right? Good. Now you can see he's already starting to adjust that, no, come. Adjust that spacing. Good boy. That was much better. Good job, bud. Good boy. Yeah. Good job. Okay. So I'll have you try that too. Perfect. And keep an eye on him, right? Because if he starts to delay it all, I need you to give that correction. There you go. Perfect. Yep. Because we can get more specific with it, and I think this will help just prime him for the walk. Because he just gets so excited when he goes on that walk that it's super hard for him to focus in. Perfect. And then just repeat that come command. Nice. Just do this a couple more times. Nice. This way the correction also seems to have a little bit more of a meaning, right? When we were on that walk, he was so excited and you were giving these corrections and he kind of like was like zigzagging around because of that like confusion of like, what am I doing wrong? This is very clear, right? There you go, perfect. So now we'll try to go on this walk and we'll see what it looks like. Try to slow your pace a little bit more. He's still a little excited, and I think we're kind of walking at his pace, right? Get him back to kind of walk to you. So go ahead and correct him. Perfect. There you go. Because that's a lot of times people will do that. They'll kind of like match their pace because they don't want the dog to get ahead. Yeah. So they'll kind of do that. But then you're going to find yourself in like a near sprint if you keep doing that, you know. come like over more to the driveway and ask me to come again. Right there. Much better. Okay. There we go. If it's ever something where he's kind of like just riding that line of like, is it okay or is it too far? Sometimes I will just take that extra little step further away from him in any direction, but just like creating more distance, and ask him to come again, so that it makes it clear, because he might be thinking the same thing, right? He might be like, well, am I close enough or not? And if you give that correction and he thinks he is close enough, then it could be like more confusing for him, especially if he's like laying down like that as well, right? He's trying to play all of his cards to make sure he doesn't get a correction, and he still is. So just create a little bit more distance and then try to ask him again. And you could see after doing that, he fixed himself, he knew exactly what to do, right? And then we could kind of keep going. Now again, these are kind of those small things though. I probably would have given a correction for that. Just because he was creating a little bit of space and clearly was focused on them. Now again, where it's okay to like look at them or anything, but when you start kind of veering off because you're so focused on that thing and not maintaining the space, that's where I get the correction. I don't care if you look at the stroller as long as you're within that bubble though, right? Perfect. Nope, that's okay. Yep, because he's still, and this is what I was saying to Corey, I don't care if the focus, I don't care if he's looking at the distraction, as long as he's maintaining the criteria. It's when the distraction forces him out of that bubble where he starts kind of veering off a little bit and leaves the bubble. That's what I'm giving the correction for, right? I'm not giving a correction because you're looking at the thing, I'm giving a correction because you're leaving my bubble to look at that thing, right? All right, so now we can try to go on this what? We'll just kind of go to the left here.
He chomped at me.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
He was playful.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I would have still given a correction even at that like length of time or whatever, because those are the things where it's like, you know, even if he didn't make contact with you or whatever, you don't want to get it in his head that that's something that is allowed to happen. Especially if it's something that it transfers to when the baby starts crawling and stuff like that, you know, like that all of that nipping and mouthing, whatever reaction has got to be cut.
There was a playful element.
Yeah.
But
even that, like him being a playful bite, you know, like a little
right.
a little dog, a playful bite is okay, but him, even a playful bite is still a bite, you know? Yeah. So this is totally fine. As long as the only thing I would give a correction for, if anything, would be if he were to like cut in front of you, right? But all of that's totally fine. And this is where we get to showing him that like, it's not the looking that gets you in trouble. It's the going off to look gets you in trouble. This is also something I was telling Corey, if it's something where he's going out, say he walks too far out in front or to the side or whatever, and you're telling him no, and you're repeating that come command, make sure he actually comes in like on his own, right? So even if you have to tell him like no twice as you're walking or something, make sure he's still coming in. Or even if you have to stop. Now I know I was telling you, I'd like you to keep going and stuff, but if you're telling him no and come and you're still finding yourself having to pull him into you, right? Like, so right there, like I would have done 2 corrections right there, because the initial one for no, and then he kind of just like wandered off and did his thing over here, right? That would have been another one. Finally, he came back into his spot, but you didn't have to do anything there, right? It was all just him focusing back in and being like, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because he has to start like doing this on his own, right? Because if it's something that...
Because I think last week or the week before you were okay with that.
Right.
But now I think...
No. Well, the last week I was doing leash pressure to kind of do that upper leash pressure to help with his reactivity. Yeah. But I do want him still coming in on his own. Because if he's not, he's either, just still blowing you off, or he's confused with the correction, right? Because if it's something that you tell him come and you pull him in.
50's high or 50's high?
50's fine for him. I mean, it seems to be working well. I would honestly say, if anything, we would be going up on our levels.
Really?
Just because he's still doing this, right? He's really good, and whereas this is like, yeah, you're not getting a correction, 3 more inches you would be, right? So I do want it to be more consistent, and I know he can be better with it, because when you tell him no and come, when he fixed himself, he came right up there, right? So tell him
No.
and then come again.
Come.
Nice. Even though you didn't change your levels,
Yeah.
3 corrections he finally like yelped, because he was like, okay, like now I should focus in, right? It's the first one he actually cared about the correction. Those other 2 he didn't really have any reaction to, because he wasn't really focused on it. He was rather be rolling in or pulling over and checking that grass or something than listen to the command. It was only the 3rd one where he was like, oh, okay, I'll listen, you know? And that's where, like, you know, I still want to work on the success, right? But we're now getting to the point where he's starting to remember a little bit, and I want to start kind of fine-tuning this stuff and start kind of nitpicking the small things where he's kind of taking advantage of just like going off and rolling around, and you know, it's cute, you're letting him do it, whatever, but when he's doing it every other yard and it's just adding minutes to your walk,
Yeah.
you know, then it's something where, and then,
It always happens though.
yep.
He breaks one rule, then he breaks another.
Yep, and that's what I mean. Again, I'm not expecting perfection from anyone, but it's something that I want. You know, once we start seeing a lot of major success, we can start focusing on the little things, right? I still think we do need to focus on the big stuff, on the reactivity, on him kind of pushing ahead and doing all this stuff. But you know, as we go, we can start kind of teaching these small things as well.
Do you think he'd ever be like, what's it called? Without any
Like an off leash?
off leash?
Yeah. I definitely think he can. You know, as long as we keep this ball rolling with this consistency, you know, it's something that I really want to get him good around the neighborhood, because that's the most important thing, right? If we can get him really good, even if he's on the leash, walking with the stroller and stuff, I feel like that would be kind of like checking all the boxes, you know what I mean? After that though, you know, it doesn't mean we have to stop there though. After that, you know, we can come back to the facility, we can do long line stuff, or we go to a park around here even, and start doing more of those recalls, off leash, kind of fine tuning that stuff. But we have a bit of ways to go for sure. He's definitely pushing it. He's definitely testing you, but you guys are, you know, in the same sense though, you guys are definitely still holding your own as well, right? That's what I mean. I don't think it's anything where he's like fully taking advantage of you, because I don't think you're letting him. I think it's still just my job to let you know again, when we get to the small things, it's the small things that he's nitpicking at, that he's trying to kind of like allow a consistency with getting away with those things. Whereas once we address those, once I kind of like help you work through those, then we'll get over those small things. Yeah, but this is the big things that we're focusing on right now, and this is all I want to keep successful with you guys. So I'm not like worried about the small things. You know, while I'm here, I'll let you know, but I really think this driveway practice is going to help a lot too, to kind of like get him in the zone as well. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I like the driveway tick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that too.
Yeah, I think that'll help a lot.
Oh boy.
So I definitely, you know, just when you are taking him on walks, I think that would be super helpful, trying to do that, even if it is just for 5 turns or so, you know, like 5 reps of that. But make sure before you go on that walk, before you start walking kind of like we did, have some success with it too. Don't just do 2 or 3 just to do 2 or 3 and then go on the walk. Do it until you start seeing him actually focusing. Thank you very much. Do it before you start seeing, or until you start seeing that focus, and then go on the walk, right? Because that's the whole point of that warm up, is to make sure that you're doing it successful.
They're fighting, and literally, my knees are going.
Right, because they're like taking you out, coming down the stairs and stuff.
And
Yeah.
it's his fault.
Yeah. Yep. And so that's something too that we'll focus a little bit more, you know, obviously keep on doing your thing, doing the walk-in. We'll check on that and see how that goes next time we meet up. But we'll let them kind of romp around a little bit too and kind of get a focus on that as well. We're definitely heading in the right direction now. I think today was the first follow-up where like I've really started seeing a lot bigger margin of success. So I hope you guys are seeing the same thing, but just keep working on it. And like I said, then we'll let them romp around next time and get it kind of pick on that so we can kind of start working on this whole interaction as well. Because especially as she starts getting bigger and stuff, you know, she starts crawling around and it's easy to focus on her right now because she's not doing a whole lot of moving, but when she starts kind of wandering off on her own, it's just a matter of time before she tries to play with them and stuff, you know.
She's doing so good off leash.
Nice.
We've been sitting in the front yard and there's so many people that walk by and she'll either stay right by me
Yeah.
or she'll like run a little bit and just stand and like,
Yeah.
just stare.
Just look at the very edge.
Yeah, she's been doing so good though.
Nice.
At the beach.
Yeah.
My mom has, one of her friends has like a private beach.
Oh, nice.
She did great there. She was
Yeah.
off leash. I didn't have her collar on her because she was swimming. And she did so good.
Yeah. I'm really glad to hear she's doing really well.
Yeah. I did want to talk to you because this Friday is my last day of work. I'm off for summer. So I wanted to kind of come up with like a game plan on what to do. Because I don't want to lose any progress that we have.
Sure.
In the crate.
Yeah.
So
She won't be created as routinely because you'll be home with her.
Right.
Okay.
yes.
Well, throughout your day, I'd like you to still put her in the crate. So just because we're home with our dogs and we're able to have them out doesn't mean that they have to be out with us all day. So we can have a little bit of time that you choose within your day to give her a couple hours, even if you're set to be home.
Okay.
So she's still having the routine of going in the crate, staying in there, maybe go on your patio, your backyard, read a little bit, chill out there. So we're not getting her out of the habit of being in the crate. That's a really good idea. Still continue to crate her when you go anywhere, as you probably have. But it's just kind of like a baby. Like you run the baby around, we make sure all her needs are met, and then we can put her down for a nap in her crate.
Okay.
I think it's interesting, like you can really prove a dog's training. And then when you get out in public, it's like sometimes they just get distracted. And you wouldn't think it was so different. So I'm just trying to work her kind of through the hurdle of planting. And I don't want to get to the point where she's kind of able to blow the e-collar off.
Yeah.
So I'm a little higher, so I'm really taking the time to teach her from her mistakes. And I still want to be patient with her, and I want to help her if needed by correcting her first, and then I'm crouching and talking to her and getting her over to us. Long term, obviously, we won't want to have to do that. But for the first time at a busy park, it's okay to offer a little bit of help just to complete the command. Okay? Come. Good. Okay. Ruger, come. Yes, good. Good job. Okay. So it's one thing for her to be able to do the command. I want to start to see the confidence behind it, and now we're seeing a little bit of, she's more sure of what to do, as opposed to before she was getting overstimulated, so she'd plop, and she's like, is this the answer you want? And although she's nervous and we can feel empathy for her in that situation, we ultimately want to show her she needs to come to us. Oh, hi! What a pretty dog! Oh, wow!
Ruger, come.
Hi, Rugie! Hi, Ruger! Hi! Hi! Oh, hello!
Ruger, come. Good girl.
No. She seems really interested in children,
Yeah.
which is not a bad thing to like children, but when she's out in this context, we really want to stop those moments of fleeting toward kids. So the next time she does it, I think I'd like to go a little bit closer to the playground maybe, test her out a bit,
Yeah.
and we'll hold on to the line, but starting to practice some of those really impulsive things she has, because if we do really want a stable off-leash dog, we got to get on the little mistakes of her. She was like, oh, I want to go see them. Come. Good. Okay. You're doing good. Come. Good girl. Okay. Pretty good practice there. So you might have noticed when we started the command, I was using a lot of like help, like crouching, saying her name, and now I'm trying to get away from that a little and have her just come the first time. And she's a little bit more confident in the command, so I need less help. Okay? She's doing very well. And then the moments that she started, like I noticed that we're around the child, and that was a temptation for her. My finger's on the button, so I can instantly tell her no and correct her. And my timing was a little bit better that time, so she was very affected by it. She's like, oh.
Yeah.
So now I just like to practice putting her into a sit and having her just watch things going on.
Okay.
Similar to when you were at the baseball game, I just kind of want to teach her to be still.
Okay.
So we can hold her accountable just for that sit, and sometimes naturally that turns into laying down. And it's a really good skill to teach dogs, is just to like see everything going on and be able to hold one command through it. She come flinging out of there.
We have been practicing in the front yard. When there is people walking by, I have her hold a sit. Is that okay to do?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think it's good for her to start to practice like not going right after people, because even if she's friendly and loving and likes people, we still want to control that part of her that's like when she was around the child and she's like, oh my God, I must see you. So it's a good habit to start to teach her to be still and stick with you. Although if you're in a normal setting walking at heel, you can also correct if she's starting to go to people, but sit is a really good option as well. But if you, for instance, like didn't have time to put her in a sit and she started going toward people, you could correct that initial movement toward them.
I'm so impressed with how chill she is.
Yeah. I think it's really good when we're out in the world, we're thinking the dogs need to be involved and smelling everybody and greeting everybody, but just taking the control back of an unfamiliar environment when things are going on. We can't control 99% of what's going on around us, but if we have her expected to be in a sit, we can start to see her relax and chill out a lot more than allowing her to perform like the pacing or the wrapping around your chair, going underneath. And if anybody did come up to her and were like, oh, I want to pet her, you can politely say, no, she's in training, or you can release her and allow them to pet. It's just kind of your preference. Yeah. She's done really well today. I'm really happy with her progress. I think we'll continue, I'd say, like capitalize on the mistakes of some of the impulsive behaviors, whether that's running after a bird or a kid, maybe get her out in a distracting location to prove some of that.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. She was like, hey, I don't know you. Do you want to pet me?
Right. But then like everything else, she's terrified.
Yeah. So you see, like it is nice to see those opportunities though when we are working toward off leash, because we can now predict what is going to set her off, and we can get one step closer to really proofing her and having her be bomb proof off leash.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I think if you take her back to a baseball game, you go to a park with her, just practicing stillness at some point, having her in a duration position, whether that's the sit or down, just kind of let her hang out.
Okay.
Other than that, how's the week gone?
Good. Her walking is like perfect almost.
Nice.
So,
Good job, Maxie.
except for when she's like unsure or afraid.
Sure.
She gets a little, incorrect, but for the most part, fine. We didn't do a lot of bed. I'm not gonna lie again. We did a little bit, and quite frankly, we cheated. She had a bone in there, so she was able to be occupied in bed for a bit.
Okay.
She is better when I'm sitting in the chair. We spent like half a day when I was working, and that kind of, she's doing better.
All right.
I just have to, like, she's a different dog.
When they have the collar on, we're able to hold them accountable, which they know and understand. So yes, we do see behavior change because they're like, I'm not going to be able to get away with this. And it's actually a little bit more fair if we're able to offer her that clarity rather than like the inconsistency, and then we're suddenly like, okay, now we mean it. And she's going to be like, what the hell? You didn't mean it last time.
Actually, I just had an idea because we've been spending a lot of time outside, like on the patio set. I should take a bed outside.
Yeah, take a bed outside. With some of these commands, like just make it as easy as you can for yourself to perform them. So maybe next time you're outside having a drink on the patio, bring her bed out, place her there, just have her hold like a 10 to 15 minute. Well, let's start the recall today to give you something to practice for the week so you can feel like you're getting that to be really strong. And obviously, when we're doing the recall, we want to rely on creating a habit for her to come and not using anything to bribe her. I just want her to come because we're asking her to come rather than feeling like we need to squeak something or, exactly. And I think she's totally capable of being able to do that.
It was not good.
Maxine, come. Good. So the way that we're starting recall today is with our continuous pressure stage. So I'll be pressing and holding the button if I ask her to come and she doesn't come to me. I will be releasing the pressure when she's in my bubble to kind of teach her what the boundary is, okay? And we're at a pretty low level because we're at continuous. I still want it to be meaningful to her, but I don't want it to be alarming. Come. Good girl. Okay, come on. We're getting excited now. Yeah. Come. Good. Yes. Good job. What about a milk bone? Can I interest you in a fine, meaty milk bone? She said, no, you may not. Come. Okay. Yeah. Out. Come. Yes. As you know, when we're starting recall with a dog, we're often calling them away from something that might be desirable, whether they're behind the shed sniffing or see another dog, something desirable. So I try to make it in the initial stages a little bit fun, rewarding to come to me so she wants to come to me. And we're still going to use our e-collar to have a consequence for not coming, but adding a little fun with it always helps. Maxie, come. Yes, good girl. Good girl. Okay, come on. It's okay if she's following you. A lot of owners will be like, well, I can't get them to stop following me after that. And once they're kind of in that mindset to follow you and they're kind of anticipating that you're going to call them, we can see this like glue, and that's not wrong. I just try to look for opportunities that we can either like quickly create distance and have her come, or just keep your sessions like 10 to 15 minutes to start. and making sure they're successful. Again, not wrong that she's following you. She's just saying, this is what you want me to do, Mom. Come. Good. Okay. Come. Good. Good job. Okay. Sometimes when we're starting the recall, although this is pretty relaxed of an environment, there's not a lot of distractions, we can begin to see what the dog is resistant toward, whether that's a distraction, come, the agility equipment. She obviously feels very safe with you, so she's trying to park next to you and get out of doing what I'm asking her. And the worst thing that I could do at that point is give up and just allow her to hide next to you and be like, I can just turn this off if I don't come. And if I act nervous enough, maybe they'll stop. Okay? And sometimes even the slight, like taking the leash off, it's so psychological to dogs to have a leash on, because that's what we've always used to control them. Come. Good. Okay. So as I'm transitioning to the next stage of removing the leash, come. Because I know she has issues parking next to you, and because I know she's feeling a certain way about the agility equipment, I'm gonna try my best to just temporarily take that conflict out and try to create a little space from them. Come. Good, yes. Because when we're near the equipment, she's like, do you want me to go up on this? Okay. Or she just likes it. So today was the first time like really refining this command. So over the next week or so, I'd like you to continue telling her to come. I'd start with a leash just to clarify until we can get her to the point where we feel like she's pretty confident in it. And then I want to see the confidence in the command, the certainty in the command. But when we first start things, when we're enforcing them, dogs can be like, what do you want me to do? The agility, the bed? So we want to continue to clarify to her that come means come all the way to me. So look at points like, is she going to the bed this week? Can we get her to come? And the most important part is just having her follow through. I think she did pretty well. Did you do good?
Probably not an A.
Hi guys, this is Bridget with Miracle Canine, and you can't see him, but I have Archer here helping me out, holding a downstay. And Archer recently completed a 10-session package with us, and he originally sought out training because he had a little bit of an incident with a family member coming into the house. And I think the situation was they tried to give him a kiss, and he ended up biting that person in the face, which of course caused a lot of upset amongst the family members, and the owners were very upset, thinking, how could my dog have done this? Because they had only known a version of him that was very polite and friendly and had previously had really successful interactions with their family members. So I thought it'd be a little bit interesting point to touch on. We kind of advocate from strangers a lot. We tell strangers that they can't come up and pet our dogs, but sometimes trainers and owners don't talk enough about setting boundaries with friends and family, especially if rules or the training of which you're doing has shifted a little bit. And once we start to set boundaries and things, I think it's important that once we start the training process and we're becoming more educated about healthy interactions with dogs, that it's okay to kind of change up the script on your friends and family and just saying, hey, let's not get in dog's face. Hey, I'm uncomfortable with A, B, or C. If you have that one brother that comes in and riles up your dog, it's okay to start to put an end to those kinds of behaviors from guests. And initially that can feel a little bit uncomfortable to set those boundaries. But I think moving forward, it's really essential to have your dog really listen to you, whether they love the person that's visiting or whether they're showing a little bit of fearful or even aggressive signs toward visitors. A lot of that can be navigated through advocating for our dog's space. Even if they love the person that's visiting, it's okay to not have them say hi right away. It's okay to utilize your training, have them hold a bed stay. And it's okay to say, hey, can you not do that with my dog right now? Can you not rile them up? In Archer's instance, I think at one point the owners had asked me, well, when can my family start to show him affection again? Because they were all very used to showing him affection. And to which I kind of had the conversation with them, just because things were successful before doesn't mean that's the goal of where we want to go back to, because that caused an issue. Because in some instance, he was uncomfortable with that affection and acted aggressively. I think when we're living a successful life with our dogs, it's important to know when to push the envelope versus when to not. So in the instance that something's completely avoidable, like Archer, somebody getting in his face and kissing him, showing him affection, it's completely avoidable to just ask the person not to get in his face. There's no need to push that envelope. I don't think that we should have our dogs tolerate situations that they're clearly uncomfortable with in that context. But things like working through irrational fears or showing your dog that they don't need to be afraid of something in their environment or a person, I think that can be really helpful to work with. But I think you should also, in the forefront of your mind, think, is this going to help my dog? And if the answer is no, there's no reason to push it. Just advocate at that point. So the example of, is it going to help Archer to be kissed? No. So we can have people avoid kissing him and help him have really solid interactions through maybe some petting if he'd like that, and the owners are comfortable with that kind of interaction. And a healthy interaction could look like we place our dogs on a bed stay and have the excitement of the guest kind of calm down for a bit. And then if we choose and we want our dog to say hello to somebody, I'd release them and have the dog have its own choice. If they choose to come up and smell the guests, that's totally fine. But I never want to force my dog to interact with people if they're uncomfortable. I want to read their body language. If they want to leave the room, we're going to let them leave the room. There's no need for them to act a certain way. So moving forward, although it can feel really nice to have a really affectionate, happy dog, know the dog that you have and respect their boundaries when it comes to having people over, and help them feel super comfortable, whether you're having a larger gathering or a couple people over. So moving forward, it's completely up to you what you're allowing your guests to do, and it's always 100% okay to step in and stop things from happening that you know your dog is uncomfortable with. Don't allow the point where your dog is choosing when they need to react. Kind of get on top of it, help your dog work through it so we can actively prevent situations, and we don't have to have that reinforced in our dog's mind that they need to use their teeth to get people to go away. Something we also really talk about and emphasize is advocating for your dog and not putting them in situations where they're going to be set up to fail. And one really good example of that is Archer biting somebody. And in hindsight, yes, now the owners have been educated to prevent something like that further from happening. But it's our job to protect our dogs and set those boundaries with our family members. It's not our dog's job to protect us, or if they feel uncomfortable to start to react in a negative way, because once we show them that they have control over the guests, that can be a very unhealthy pathway to go down. So as you have guests over, think of what the best case scenario for your dog is and how you want the interaction to go. That can look like your dog does crate time and doesn't have any interaction with that guest. That can look like utilizing your training to manage the situation around people, whether your dog's really excited or your dog's a little bit fearful. So moving forward, just think to yourself, how can I make this interaction go healthy? How can I advocate for my dog and not put them in situations in which they feel they have to protect themselves?